You start a new K-drama for the leads, but then the savage grandma, the chaotic best friend, or the nosy neighbor shows up, and suddenly the whole show hits different. Today, we're celebrating the most iconic K-drama supporting characters every fan needs to know. Let's go! 20. Sung Dong-il.
네, 날 좀 살려줘라. 더 이상 완치될 희망도 시간도 방법도 없어.
Sung Dong-il is everywhere in K-dramas, and somehow, no one ever complains. In the Reply series, with Reply 1988 being his most beloved installment, he gave us one of the most unforgettable K-drama dads ever. Loud, flawed, stubborn, yet deeply loving. Stepping into a different kind of warmth, his role as Ho-taek in My Sweet Mobster delivered that instant, wait, that's him, excitement. Then, in Hospital Playlist, even a brief appearance carried that same signature comfort. On the more commanding end of his range, he shifted into full authority mode as Sung Kyu-jin in The Tale of Lady Oak, calm, righteous, and impossible to ignore. And in 12, he anchors a fantasy-heavy world as Ma-rock, serving as the grounded human presence inside a larger-than-life premise. From emotionally layered family dramas to crime thrillers and heartfelt slice-of-life stories, he keeps showing up as the father figure, the mentor, the senior officer, or the unexpected emotional backbone. Even with minimal screen time, he makes every world feel authentic through subtle reaction shots and perfectly timed delivery. Basically, if Sung Dong-il is in the cast, the drama already has a soul. 19. Kim Shin-rok.
징그러 죽겠네.
지금 손님 들어가셨거든요. 서빙을 좀 하시는 게 어떨까요?
아주 징그러 죽겠네.
All this actress needs is one piercing stare and that slow, knowing smile. And you already feel like something dangerous is about to unfold. Kim Shin-rok has mastered the art of playing villains and morally gray characters, making them magnetic rather than just menacing. Her global breakthrough came with Hellbound, where she portrayed Park Jong-ja, a mother facing an unthinkable fate, earning Best Supporting Actress at the Baksang Arts Awards for a performance that carried both terror and heartbreak simultaneously. Building on that momentum, she turned Jin-hwa Young in Reborn Rich into one of the most volatile members of the Soon-young family, ambitious, explosive, and unforgettable in every confrontation. But her range goes far beyond chaos. On the quieter, more restrained side, she played Oh Ji-hwa in Beyond Evil with grounded intelligence, slicing through the thriller's tension with sharp precision. Then, in a complete tonal shift, she surprised audiences in Tastefully Yours, revealing a lighter and more playful side that proved she refuses to be typecast. The smallest shift in her eyes, the quiet calm in her delivery. Even when she isn't speaking, she tells you exactly what to fear. She doesn't just act in scenes, she controls them. 18. Park Jin-joo.
그쵸. 우리 정 검사님 진짜 똑부러지게 생겼죠. 아, 진짜 좋아.
Every K-drama needs that one best friend who says what the lead is too afraid to admit, and somehow makes you laugh and cry in the same episode. That's Park Jin-joo. She delivered best friend energy done exactly right in Our Beloved Summer as Lee Sol-yi. Supportive, nosy when necessary, and hilariously blunt. Shifting into a darker, more emotionally demanding space, her presence in It's Okay to Not Be Okay added warmth and comic timing that balanced the show's heavier arcs beautifully. Then in Love Struck in the City, she spiced up a modern rom-com friend group as Rara, while in Encounter, she quietly strengthened the workplace dynamic as Yoon-jin. And if you watched while you were sleeping, you definitely remember her as Moon Hyang-mi, proof that even smaller roles become memorable in her hands. What makes Park Jin-joo elite is her reaction acting. She's a timing sniper, sharp, effortless, never try hard. Her expressions feel completely natural. Her delivery turns exposition into comedy without breaking the emotional tone, and she always knows exactly when to dial things up or pull them back. The lead couple's romance hits harder simply because she's in the room. 17. Jang Young-nam.
안녕하세요. 이 그림 덕분에 병원 분위기가 그냥 확 사네.
She's the supporting actress who walks in as a mom, a queen dowager, or a full-on antagonist, and suddenly the leads feel like they're performing in her world. She set the tone early with Park Hang-ja in It's Okay to Not Be Okay, a performance so chillingly precise that viewers genuinely asked, Why is she so terrifying? From there, she carried cold authority into The Devil Judge as Cha Kyung-hee, then raised the stakes even further with high-tension intensity as Do Jin-suk in The Veil. Shifting gears entirely, she delivered elite parent pressure cooker energy in Crash Course in Romance as Jang Seo-jin. And in Love Next Door, she layered polish with emotional complexity as Seo Hye-suk. Controlled on the surface, quietly complicated underneath. What sets Jang Young-nam apart is her ability to shift tone without ever raising her voice. She moves from warmth to menace, from comedy to heartbreak, using only micro-expressions, razor-sharp timing, and that unmistakable presence. No matter the genre, historical, thriller, family drama, rom-com, she adapts without missing a beat. One scene with her, and the whole drama levels up. 16. Heo Sung-tae.
우리 도혜원 의원님께서 공들이신 문주시 재개발도 다 날아가고요.
One look, and it's over. That's what Heo Sung-tae brings to a drama. A single glare that instantly triples the stakes. He first announced himself to the global stage in Squid Game as Jang Deok-soo, volatile, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. Then, trading raw physicality for something slicker and more unsettling, he shifted into Beyond Evil as Lee Chang-jin, the kind of character who makes you think something is deeply wrong here before you can even explain why. He's what you'd call a pressure actor. When he walks into a scene, the temperature drops. Even a throwaway line sounds like a warning. And when he flips into comedy, it lands precisely because that underlying edge never fully disappears. Moving into more layered territory, his veteran detective in Crash and its sequel carries both authority and grief in equal measure. Then, in The Player 2 and Good Boy, he proves he's not just built for intimidation, playing a dependable team leader with girl dad energy that somehow still feels unmistakably like him. Heo Sung-tae in a cast isn't just a supporting role, it's a quiet threat. 15. Yoon Byung-hee.
지금까지 숨겨왔던 제 기술 혹시 쓸 일 있으면 쓰겠습니다.
Yoon Byung-hee may not be the lead, but let's be honest. When he appears, you sit up a little straighter because you know something brilliantly unhinged is about to happen. He first truly announced that energy in Vincenzo as Nam Joo-sung, the overexcited paralegal who fangirled, panicked, and somehow survived Vincenzo-level chaos, adding an extra layer of comedy to every dramatic moment simply by existing in the frame. Then, leaning even further into the absurd, he embraced the full confusion of Miss Night and Day as investigator Ju Byung-duk, serving non-stop. Why is this my job? Energy inside a body switch mystery that thrived on disorder. On the other hand, he's proven he can dial it back just as effectively. In The Tale of Lady Oak, he holds his own in a historical romantic thriller without needing to be the loudest person in the room. And in Tastefully Yours, playing a vegetable store owner in a food-centered rom-com, he slips into an entirely different world and still manages to stand out. His secret weapon? He reacts the way a real person would, which makes every dramatic speech, romantic confession, and over-the-top plot twist land twice as hard, supporting role on paper, scene stealer in practice. 14. Kim Sun-young.
가운데서 왜 교로쌤 날 쳤다면서?
근데 임신을 하셨어?
진짜가?
You know that moment when a familiar face appears and you instantly relax because you know the scene is about to feel real? That's Kim Sun-young. She helped build that iconic Sangmun-dong neighborhood mom energy in Reply 1988, making the entire block feel like a place you'd actually want to live. Then, carrying that same communal warmth into a completely different setting, she became Nai, Wol-suk in Crash Landing on You. Loud, funny, fiercely loyal, and oddly comforting all at once. When the Camellia Blooms gave her yet another standout community character, this time with sharper emotional edges and genuine real-world bite. Stepping into more authoritative territory, she plays a strict but protective vice principal in Our Unwritten Soul, then flips into full institutional authority mode as Minister Kang Mi-young-hwae in the trauma code Heroes on Call. And in A Virtuous Business, she navigates 90s female friendship as Seo Young-bok with the kind of ease that only comes from decades of knowing exactly what a scene needs. Tiny pauses, perfectly timed mom logic lines, micro expressions that hit harder than a monologue. Every drama she joins quietly becomes a little richer for it. 13. Kwak Dong-yeon.
역시 내가 제 꿈을 잘 꿨어.
Can we talk about how Kwak Dong-yeon always starts off as the slightly annoying, chaotic, or awkward presence, and somehow ends up being the character you're most emotionally attached to by the finale? Many fans first noticed him in Love in the Moonlight, but Vincenzo was the real turning point. As Jang Han-seo, he could have easily stayed the chaotic younger brother. Instead, he peeled back layers of fear, vulnerability, and desperate sincerity that made his arc hit far harder than anyone expected. From there, he took that unpredictability into an entirely different environment, the cutthroat tension of Big Mouth, where he played Jerry with sharp edges and a restless energy that kept every prison power scene on its toes. Then, shifting into something more unexpectedly human, he gave us Hong Soo-cheol in Queen of Tears, a character who could have been written off as the spoiled, faintly ridiculous chaebol brother, but ended up being one of the drama's most wounded and compelling emotional wildcards. He can be adorable, frustrating, hilarious, and genuinely heartbreaking. Sometimes all in one episode. That is not a common skill. 12. Jo Han-chul.
잠 못 드는 달을 밤에 제조해봐도
모르겠는데요.
드세요.
You know that feeling when a scene suddenly seems more intense, more polished, more expensive? And then you realize Jo Han-chul just walked in? That's his superpower. He first made that impact memorably clear in Reborn Rich as Jin Dong-ki, the insecure Soon-young heir spiraling through power games and ego battles, petty and calculating in the most watchable way possible. Then, swapping family warfare for corporate maneuvering, he played the smooth-talking lawyer in Vincenzo who could shift alliances without flinching and make it look effortless. On the lighter side of his range, he proved just as effective in the small-town warmth of Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha, adjusting his energy completely without losing that signature reliability. And then came the heavier roles. In Mercy for None, he's buried deep inside a brutal underworld power struggle. In Trigger, he steps up as the calm authority figure trying to contain chaos as illegal weapons flood the country. And in Heroes, Next Door, he plays the kind of official who walks into a room and immediately shifts the dynamic for everyone in it. Real K-drama fans recognize him the moment he appears, and they already know what it means for the scene ahead. 11. Mi-kyung.
장어를 드시면 뭐해. 풀 수가 없는데. 보라 아버지도 불쌍한 양반이야.
If Mi-kyung is in the cast, prepare to laugh hard, cry harder, and quietly question your life choices somewhere in between. She built her foundation as the unforgettable neighborhood mom in Reply 1988. Loud, practical, deeply loving, and completely human in a way that felt less like acting and more like someone you actually knew. Then, moving into far more emotionally demanding territory, the good bad mother gave her Jin Young-soon, a single mother whose complicated strictness slowly unravels into something raw, layered, and genuinely gutting. From there, she stepped into full commanding authority in Jong-yeon. The star is born as Kang So-bok, the troupe director shaping the ambitions and battles of aspiring performers in the 1950s, women's gook-guk world. Most recently, in a tonal shift back toward comedy with real emotional undercurrents, she plays the money-obsessed friend diving headfirst into crypto dreams into the moon, delivering desperation and humor in equal, perfectly balanced measure. You don't just watch Mi-kyung, you feel her. The moment she appears, the drama gets warmer, funnier, and more alive, like the story finally remembers it has a heartbeat. 10. Chul-soo.
인생에서 가장 빛날 때는 역시 학창 시절이야.
Chul-soo is that actor where you might not immediately know his name, but the second he appears, something in you goes, "Oh good, this scene is about to be worth watching." Fans clocked him early in Vincenzo, where his offbeat energy added texture and flavor to an already wonderfully chaotic world. Branching into fantasy, he held his own just as naturally in Alchemy of Souls, and then brought quiet intentionality to darker ensemble work in The Glory. Never decorative, always purposeful. On the comedy side of things, Spirit Fingers cast him in a coming-of-age art club romance, a genre shift he handled with ease and genuine charm. Then, taking a sharper turn, Undercover Miss Hong placed him in a 1997 set workplace setup, where he plays a character you will absolutely love to hate, which is honestly its own distinct kind of talent. And in When the Phone Rings, he steps into more grounded thriller territory as an office manager caught in a kidnapping-fueled political storm. His timing is precise, his delivery casual but specific, and he has a rare gift for quietly translating the tension in a room so the audience feels it before they can name it. A small role in his hands is never actually small. 9. Seo Hye-won.
우리가 서로 뭐 얘기 들어줄 사이는 아니지 않나? 얘기할 사람이 없어서 그래. You know I have no 친구. 알았어.
You know that supporting actress who walks into a scene and suddenly everything feels louder, sharper, and more fun? That's Seo Hye-won. Most viewers first fell for her chaotic charm in Business Proposal as Jo Yoo-jung, the bold cousin who practically hijacked every episode with her fearless energy and expressive reactions. Then, in a complete tonal reversal, she flipped the switch in Alchemy of Souls as Seo Hye, playing manipulative so convincingly that viewers were genuinely frustrated. Which is, of course, exactly the point. From there, she eased back into warm and effortless best friend territory in Lovely Runner as Kang So-young, reminding everyone just how naturally likable she can be. Her more recent work, however, shows a different kind of depth. In When Life Gives You Tangerines, she plays the impulsive sister who stirs up family tension with almost no effort. In Love Scout, her portrayal of Oh Chung-hwa, the warm heart quietly surviving inside a cutthroat office, earned her serious supporting MVP recognition from fans and critics alike. And in Pro Bono, she reveals a cooler, more principled side as the youngest member of a public interest legal team. She's already one of the best in the supporting space. And when she finally steps into a lead role, nobody will be even slightly surprised. 8. Kim Young-ok.
의사가 뭐 별거나. 우리 아들은 뭐 서울서 회계사야. 아이고 회계사.
When people call Kim Young-ok the nation's grandma, they are not being sentimental, they are being accurate. With a career spanning over 60 years, she has essentially raised generations of K-drama leads on screen. Longtime fans remember her commanding presence as the stern head maid in Boys Over Flowers and the deeply beloved grandmother in Coffee Prince. Transitioning into more recent territory, newer fans know her gentle warmth from Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha. And then her unexpectedly intense turns in Mouse and Squid Game proved that warmth was never the full picture. In The Judge from Hell, she went a step further, playing not just a sweet elderly tenant but secretly the angel Gabriel, constantly clashing with Kang Bitna in scenes that were quietly hilarious. And even in smaller roles across Typhoon Family, Kashiro, and My Sweet Mobster, she leaves a mark you simply don't forget. Whether she's scolding with love, offering quiet wisdom, or delivering a single line that breaks your heart, she doesn't feel like a character. She feels like everyone's Halmioni. And at this point, she practically is. 7. Kim Byung-chul.
그걸 말이라고 해? 거짓말을 기뻐할 부모가 세상 천지에 어디 있다가!
그냥 자세를 가지고 아빠가 만족을 못했잖아.
Kim Byung-chul has perfected a very specific skill, playing men you absolutely cannot stand, and yet cannot stop watching. He announced that ability loudly and memorably in Sky Castle as Cha Min-hyuk, the infamous pyramid dad whose megaphone lectures and superiority complex traumatized an entire generation of viewers. Shifting into domestic territory, but keeping that same insufferable precision, Dr. Cha gave us Seo In-ho, the husband you love to despise from start to finish. Then, moving into far darker and morally murkier ground, he became Lee Byung-chan in All of Us Are Dead, the science teacher tied directly to the outbreak, unsettling and complex in ways that made every horror escalation feel more personal. His recent work only adds more layers to that reputation. In Perfect Family, he plays the polished lawyer father of a seemingly ideal household that quietly unravels into something far more sinister. And in Kashiro, he's the lawyer whose supernatural ability activates when he drinks, which naturally positions him as the leader of a group of powered individuals. Because of course it does. His diction is precise, his comedic timing unexpectedly strong, and his micro-expressions do half the dramatic lifting without him ever needing to overplay a moment. Basically, if you're comfortable watching him, you're not paying close enough attention. 6. Kang Ki-young.
잘했어요. 숨겨진 쟁점을 잘 찾았어.
Can we acknowledge how Kang Ki-young quietly pulled off one of the most impressive range expansions in recent K-drama history? He built his reputation as the go-to chaotic coworker and dramatic best friend, reliable, funny, and always the guaranteed laugh in a rom-com. He played that role to perfection in What's Wrong with Secretary Kim as Park Seo-joon's hilariously blunt reality check best friend. Then, trading the comedy for something quieter and more emotionally resonant, Extraordinary Attorney Woo gave him Jung Myung-seok, calm, warm, and supportive, in a way that proved you don't need to be loud to leave a lasting impression. Then came the pivot nobody fully saw coming. The uncanny counter 2 placed him squarely in villain territory. Dark, intense, and genuinely unsettling in a way that sent the fandom into a collective, "Wait, he can do that?" spiral. And now, rather than retreating back to comfortable ground, he's leaning further into that complexity. In Queen of Divorce, he's navigating high-stakes emotional warfare as a strategically layered character who is essentially a lead in disguise. In Mary Kills People, he steps into morally heavy ground inside a dark black comedy medical setup that suits him far better than it has any right to. If his name is in the credits, the supporting cast already won. 5. Yeom Hye-ran. Whenever Yeom Hye-ran appears, you already know you are about to feel something you weren't fully prepared for. She set a new standard with When Life Gives You Tangerines, shattering viewers as Jeon Gwang-rae, IU's mother, with a performance so full of unconditional love and quiet sacrifice that she rightfully walked away with Best Supporting Actress at the 61st Baeksang Arts Awards. Fans basically crowned her the ultimate emotional detonator, and it's hard to argue. But long before that, her resume was already stacked. In When the Camellia Blooms, she brought sharp humor and grounded warmth. Then, moving into more intense and physically demanding territory, she anchored the uncanny counter as Chu Mayok, fierce, nurturing, and completely unforgettable. From there, the glory gave her Kang Ki-young, a role defined by quiet resilience that left audiences in silent awe. And in what might be her most chilling transformation yet, Mask Girl turned her into Kim Kyung-ja, grieving, terrifying, and award-winning in the same breath. Most recently in Law in the City, she plays the mysterious building owner subtly pulling strings behind a cluster of law firms, understated as ever and just as watchable. She doesn't just support a drama, she becomes the reason people keep watching it. 4. Kim Mi-kyung.
더러워 못 살아. 인간들이 사람을 들들 볶아.
If you've been watching K-dramas for any length of time, Kim Mi-kyung has almost certainly already played your favorite character's mother and made you genuinely love her for it. She proved early on that she was more than just warm and maternal, delivering one of her most beloved performances in Healer as the iconic Ajuma hacker, not comic relief, but the quiet backbone holding the entire operation together. Then, stepping into a more emotionally grounded space, she brought the fierce and loving mother in the heirs to life with a sincerity that stood out even inside a cast overflowing with bigger names. And she's still showing up everywhere today with just as much range. In Surely Tomorrow, she's the male lead's mother and steady emotional anchor inside a messy reconnection romance. Taking a sharper turn as You Stood By casts her in darker territory, as a mother pulled into the fallout of a desperate thriller decision, a reminder that her warmth has always had steel underneath it. Then Genie, Make a Wish, brings her back to something gentler as the loving but disciplined grandmother who believes in her granddaughter when the rest of the world doesn't. Romance, thriller, fantasy, it truly doesn't matter. Every drama that casts her is quietly telling you something. This story matters. 3. Oh Jung-se.
재밌이 빨리 이쪽으로 보내. 새치기 전에 한 번에 못 나? 나 진짜로 쏜다.
Oh Jung-se is one of the few actors that casting directors trust completely, and the roles they give him say everything. He delivered a career-defining performance in It's Okay to Not Be Okay as Moon Sang-tae. Tender, funny, vulnerable, and deeply human in ways that stayed with audiences long after the finale. Then, shifting into something far more frustrating and morally complicated, he turned No Gyutai in, When the Camellia Blooms into a painfully insecure husband who was infuriating but never hollow. From there, he took a sharp left turn into thriller territory with Sweet Home, where his Dr. Lim brought calm, clinical menace, the kind of unsettling stillness that makes everything around it feel more dangerous. His recent work continues to push in unexpected directions. In Mr. Plankton, he plays the perfect on-paper fiancé, whose polite smile quietly conceals pressure and unease. Then, in yet another tonal shift, when the star's gossip casts him as a deadpan presence, adding understated tension to a secret mission storyline. And in Good Boy, he's the smiling civil servant with hidden mastermind energy simmering just beneath the surface. What makes him elite is layered delivery. He plays the line, the subtext, and the secret simultaneously, and a scene can shift from warmth to quiet threat without him ever needing to raise his voice. That kind of control is not common. That kind of control is Oh Jung-se. 2. Cha Chung-hwa.
고철원 순헌.
Cha Chung-hwa is the actress casting directors call when they need energy. Loud, sharp, and unpredictable, but executed with real precision. Most fans fell for her in Mr. Queen, where she practically weaponized facial expressions and comedic timing alongside fierce, unwavering loyalty that made every scene she was in crackle. Carrying that same vibrant energy into ensemble territory, she made every community scene feel alive in both Crash Landing on You and Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha, the kind of presence that makes a neighborhood feel like a real place. But her recent roles reveal a completely different dimension. In The Haunted Palace, she steps into the role of a fierce, survival mode mother who has carried poverty, hardship, and rejection in her bones for years, and delivers every bit of that history through her performance with quiet devastation. Then, back in more familiar but no less sharp territory, my troublesome star gives her Min Tae-suk, the blunt and ride-or-die best friend running a makeup shop in Cheongdam, which, honestly, feels like the role the universe specifically designed for her. Yes, she can explode a scene with comedy, but she can also anchor it with toughness, loyalty, and unexpected emotional weight. She's not just energy for the sake of it, she's the kind of energy that reminds you why you're watching. 1. Kim Won-hae.
당사자요? 네가 처맞은 당사자냐고 확.
Be honest, have you ever finished a K-drama and thought, wait, wasn't Kim Won-hae in this too? Because he almost certainly was. He laid his foundation early, pulling double duty in Strong Woman Do Bong-soon, lending grounded authority in Signal, and adding texture in While You Were Sleeping, always moving between comedy and intensity without so much as blinking. Then, in one of his most striking departures, As You Stood By stripped away the humor entirely and cast him as an abusive father, uncomfortable, credible, and painfully real in a way that reframed everything audiences thought they knew about him. From there, he kept pivoting. Trigger placed him as a steady police sergeant and father figure mentor inside a gun crime thriller, anchoring the chaos with quiet dependability. On the lighter end of things, the divorce insurance brought dry, deadpan control to an office setup full of fraying relationships and questionable life choices. Then, the trauma code. Heroes on Call made him the bureaucratic hospital director you argue with every episode and somehow respect a little more each time. And even in 2026, he's still fully booked, launching a risky financial investigation in Undercover Miss Hong, and playing the witty novelist friend keeping a romance grounded in Can This Love Be Translated? Different genre, different tone, same reliability. Kim Won-hae isn't just a supporting actor, he's a guarantee. And that wraps up our list. Who's your favorite supporting actor? Drop them in the comments. I still have a soft spot for Sung Dong-il, and if his performance in Bloody Flower hasn't convinced you yet, I honestly don't know what will. And while you're here, check out the upcoming K-dramas on Netflix and Disney Plus to see which of these faces you'll be spotting next.